Happy Friday, YouTube. I'm Untitled Chapter, host of Pour Another Packers podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you again for checking out this video, clicking on this link on the good old YouTubes today. And as always, I break down some Packer news, and we have a lot of Packer news to talk about. We have one full week of training camp under our belts, and it wasn't the greatest week of practice, so I'm going to talk about some of that. I'm going to talk about this whole idea of tackling or the lack of tackling going on out there in Green Bay, and then I will touch upon, because I can't go too long without talking about it, we're going to talk about our defense again a little bit more. So without further ado, it is time to pour ourselves another Packers podcast. All right, now, so before we get started, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And of course, the elephant is, what the fuck am I doing to my set? Now, pardon my language, I do know there are some young viewers out there, but when you go out there and you order a canvas and you select the size 30 by 40, this is what shows up at your doorstep, a pixelated version of my logo, the logo I designed. I'm not really sure if this is going to be something I keep very long. I do like the style that I had going previously, but I did need to take down my Jair Alexander jersey. I plan on wearing it in the not too distant future. So we're going to roll with this right now. Leave some comments, for the love of God. Leave some comments down below. Is this something that you like? I'm thinking maybe I should even give this away. You know, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I should give this away. I will sign it. I don't know what you would do with it. Just don't burn it. I mean, put it, if you want to win this, or if you don't want it, if you get selected, that's perfectly fine. But I would prefer you don't use it for kindling. Although, you know, you win something, you can do whatever you want with it. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out the video. We're gonna move past that. I'm gonna forget that it's over my left shoulder. And thank you for subscribing. So I had 151 subscribers since last Friday's video. Pretty awesome stuff. We are, you know, about what, 600 or so away from that 1,000 benchmark. So if you really want this, or if you like the content, which I'm really hoping is more of the case, go ahead, click that subscribe button. So let's start out with some injuries. I like to just touch through this stuff real quick. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. Not a whole lot of changes going on in the injury category as far as training camp. Crosby, Jackson, Spriggs still out. This was something that I updated upon in my last video. And then we have, of course, if you didn't know, our starting running backs, both Josh Jones and Jamal Williams, both have been out of practice the last 2 days. So that has opened up a door. That has opened up a door for a particular player, and that player is none other than Danny Vitale. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his last name right. I think you pronounced the E in his name. But after 1 week of practice, I believe it is safe to say that Danny Vitale will be a roster a lock for the Green Bay Packers heading into the 2019 season. He's known as the Muscle Man, and I'm not really sure what that means. He might drink a lot of milk. It's tough to say. I don't know a whole lot about him so far at this point, but he has shown that he can contribute in the Packers offense as far as like the passing game, and he's also stepped in that 2-minute drill throughout this last week, showing that he can be a contributor, that the Packers will have a fullback heading into the 2019 season, and no player has improved their chances of making the roster so far in the first 7 days. So I know I was going to talk about injuries, but when you talk about injuries, you got to segue into who is going to step up and fill those roles. We kind of talked about with Jason Spriggs going out that Alex Light might take up that role. Maybe Cole Madison will take over that role on that offensive line. And with some of those running backs, you know, not being able to practice, we are now being able to see what the Packers can do to fill in if needed. And who knows, we'll probably have Aaron Jones, Danny Vitale combination. I swear to God, if I'm messing up his last name, I'm going to look like such a joke. But that's okay. That's why I drink. That's why this is supposed to be loosey-goosey, supposed to be fun. And let's move on to what we want to talk about with practice. So as I mentioned in that introduction portion of the video, it wasn't a great week for practice overall. So the Packers had Monday off. They practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, and then yesterday. And there's been some problems as far as the tempo and the urgency. So Matt LaFleur isn't very happy about what's going on. So as I mentioned, the defense continues to outplay and dominate. In a session with the first string, Davante Adams actually got the ball, caught the ball from Aaron Rodgers. It was stripped from Davante Adams by Jair Alexander. And Matt LaFleur took that first team off the field because he quoted saying, got to take care of the football. That's what happens in a game. You turn over the football and you're off the field. He didn't like what he saw. Obviously, you got to protect the ball. And he's implementing that idea and that sort of concept, which is obviously crucial, but he's implementing that into his practices. It doesn't matter who you are. If you turn over the ball, you're going to sit your ace on the bench. So Wednesday, to follow up the next day. So that was Tuesday. On Wednesday, Coach LaFleur implemented a 40-second game clock. And this was in hopes, of course, that it would increase the tempo, increase the urgency. They were slightly improved on Wednesday. During a 7-minute period, though, they only were able to manage to run 6 plays. And the first 2 plays of those 6 took a total of 3 minutes to get those plays off. So they had to reset the play clock a couple times. Matt LaFleur said that he saw an improvement. He said, I think it was better, but it's still not where it needs to be. It's a work in progress, but I did see the improvement. I think that, quite honestly, is just a head coach trying to stay optimistic about his offense. An offense that is going to be under the microscope quite a bit, especially all things considered, with a new head coach, a new scheme, all that good stuff that comes with a new head coach, and Aaron Rodgers, of course. Obviously, he's under a microscope. He's trying to stay positive. On Wednesday, though, the offense did go 2 for 3 in the first 2-minute drill. Rodgers hit Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a 33-yard touchdown over Jair Alexander. Although that might have been offensive pass interference, they still are leaving that up in the air. That's going to be a call for the refs to make in the regular season. And then on Thursday, Rodgers got Rashawn Gary to jump off sides with his masterful cadence that he does to get those defensive linemen to jump. LaFleur said in his press conference afterwards, "We had a great learning moment out there for Rashawn and the rest of our defense. The quarterback does a great job using his cadence, draws him offside, and we get a free play." So Rodgers connects to Jimmy Graham, 13-yard touchdown. Everyone's happy. If that happens on the regular season, I'm perfectly okay with that. But segueing from that, we need to talk about a lot of news this week about tackling, and maybe there's a lot of news, but it's something that definitely stood out to me. There's been conversations that the Packers, and in particular Matt LaFleur, does not want to have full contact going on throughout training camp, and this is an area for me that I start to I can't always agree with every decision that the Packers make, and I might kind of tick off or piss off, for lack of a better term, some of you viewers at home. But I'm a firm believer. I mean, the Packers have struggled in the past with tackling, and I'm a firm believer that if you don't practice at that full speed with that contact, that can run into problems later on down the road, possibly throughout the regular season. Now, I will put a little asterisk next to this and state that we will see how the Packers tackle throughout those 4 preseason games, and I think that's what LaFleur is banking on, that he doesn't want to go out there and tackle and risk the possibility of making injuries and losing important members of your team. In my last video from Tuesday, I did defend Matt LaFleur on the length of practices that he was having, and he finally did go over that 2-hour mark on Wednesday. He had his first 2-hour and 19-minute practice, so I was able to defend him on that one. But when it comes to tackling, it's tough for me to say that is a completely a sound idea. Believe me, I don't want to lose Packer players in training camp to injuries as much as the next person, but I do think that you need to be ready to tackle, because we have ourselves a tough schedule ahead of us, and that defense is hungry. I mean, they're dominant. They're angry men that just want to go out there and tackle. So if that wasn't clear before Wednesday, Matt LaFleur threw out Josh Jones. He threw him out of practice after he went too far tackling running back Trey Carson. Now, Carson didn't necessarily back down when Josh Jones went into tackle Trey Carson, but however, afterwards, Jones was told to get out. He was not allowed to finish out the practice, and in the press conference afterwards, LaFleur went on to say, "That's not what we want to be about. We've got to take care of our teammates. We are a team. We need everybody, and so that's just kind of how we want to operate." He laid down that hammer. He said, he made an example out of Josh Jones, that there will not be tackling going on throughout training camp, and he stressed the importance with this. However, Jones was back on the field Thursday. He did spend the entire day with the second team, and LaFleur did think that Josh Jones did respond well. However, I don't think this really bodes well for Josh Jones. Now, we've talked about him holding out of the OTAs, that he, wanted to trade. He wanted to be a staple of that Packers defense. And I do believe that if he can get his attitude together, that he can definitely be a staple on that Packers defense, because one thing about Mike Pettine's defense is he loves to swap all those players around and throw them into different positions. But I'm not really sure if Josh Jones, he's digging himself a hole, and I don't know if he can dig himself out of it. They are obviously looking at a Raven Green to take some more of those first snaps. They're looking at a Mike Tyson to take some, I love saying that, to take some more of those first snaps. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. If I had to make a way too early prediction of training camp, I would say that Josh Jones does get cut and he doesn't make that 53-man roster, but he has so much talent. He just needs to turn around and not let everything that has happened before this continue to dwell on him and ruin his potential with the Green Bay Packers. So transitioning from the tackling aspect to the defense, to start, Darnell Savage, safety Darnell Savage, finally made his long-awaited return on Wednesday. They did ask him, and this came up a lot as far as comments and discussion. They did ask him why he waited so long to get his wisdom teeth pulled, and his response was, it was just bad timing. It wasn't bothering me earlier on in the year. It kind of just snuck up on me. We got an opinion on it, and I thought it was in the best interest to get it out and get it over with. I can completely understand that. I'm sure if he had any doubt in his mind that it was going to cause him some issues or cause him some pain, he would have had it done long before. But it's just bad timing from the sounds of it. He's not too worried about it. The Packers have been taking things easy on him with his return to the practice field, so he's just been doing individual drills, one-on-one drills. They haven't implemented him into the team practices quite yet, but I do foresee that happening, probably not tonight during family night practice, but later on Sunday, Monday, when training camp returns and they're back out on the field, he'll be out there. He's got to be out there. He's our first string safety, and he is very good, and he needs to get some reps with that first string defense. So speaking of drills, though, I mentioned that Darnell Savage was sticking to drills. Speaking of drills and talking about the defense, one of the more entertaining drills that I believe takes place throughout that training camp and throughout any sort of practice is that one-on-one pass rush drill that goes on between the linebackers and those offensive linemen. So in all of last season, David Bakhtiari, the guy who ranked 43rd on the NFL Top 100, David Bakhtiari, only lost one rep in that 2018 season, so last year. He went 0 for 2 this week against our newly acquired Za'Darius Smith, and Za'Darius Smith also went on to win twice more against Alex Light, who has otherwise had a pretty stellar training camp. And then on Wednesday, David Bakhtiari went 1 for 2 against Preston Smith. So this isn't, I don't think, a concern so much. I don't look at it that way, as a concern that David Bakhtiari is maybe losing a step, no pun intended. But I think that these defensive acquisitions that we got in the Smith twins is going to prove to be a problem for offensive lines, and that's got to be something to get very excited about. Rodgers actually went as far. They asked him about what he thought about Za'Darius in a locker room interview this last week, and Rodgers went on to say, Z is kind of a scary guy just looking at him. Walking in the door, he has a clout, as Julius Peppers did, where there's a healthy, I'm not going to cross that person. So it's a, I don't know, funny quote from Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, this guy is just a beast, a man-child. It's not the right word whatsoever, but I love what I'm hearing out of these newly acquired free agents. We spent a lot of money on them. We got rid of Clay Matthews, and we got rid of, what's his name, who's not even playing in the league anymore. Nick Perry. We got rid of Nick Perry, so we replaced those with these two guys, and they're showing a whole bunch of wonderful things out there on the practice field, along with Rashawn Gary, who, if you want to know a little bit more about him, check out my last video. I talked a lot about Rashawn Gary. Outside of that, for those two guys on the defensive rush, Kenny Clark also had a good showing on Wednesday. He went 2 for 2, winning both drills against the newly acquired right guard, Billy Turner. Our defensive rush, looking solid, looking healthy, looking like it's going to be a good time for yellow jello shots, which I will talk about. I got to post a video about how jello shots work for Packer games because it's crucial to the success. You guys have to believe in superstitions. That's why I took the Alexander jersey down. It's because I believe in superstitions to a point. To a point, I believe in superstitions. But I got my jerseys on. I got my shoes that I wear. I know you guys have superstitions too. We all do. So let's have a little bit of fun before we close out this video. In some fun news from this past week, Rodgers lands at the number 8 spot on the NFL Top 100. So that is a slight increase from his number 10th rank last year on the 2018 Top 100. Now remember, he landed number 10 on the rankings when he went out with a broken collarbone, and pretty much missed all, if not, better half of the season that year, and he's still ranked number 10th on the list. That is pretty shocking, and the fact that he came in at 8 this year is, considering he played every game, I'm not really sure how to interpret that. I'm not going to read too much into it, but 3 quarterbacks finished ahead of him. Tom Brady came in at number 6, at number 4, Patrick Mahomes, and at number 2, Drew Brees. I mean, you got to respect every one of those guys. All 3 of those guys had respectable years last year, had stellar seasons last year. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, just a hell of a wild card. I mean, he wasn't on the list the previous year, coming in as his first full season as a starting quarterback to make number 4 on the NFL Top 100. That's pretty awesome. And then there was a bit of a team building exercise that the Packers did Thursday after practice. So the Packers had a spelling bee that came down to Aaron Rodgers and defensive coordinator Mike Pettin. Rodgers was quoted saying in his locker room that Pettin did win. However, he won off of a coin toss. Whoever won the coin toss got the option to either spell the word or pass it on to the next person. And Pettin did take the word, and it came down to that, and the word was conscientious. So if you guys know how to spell that, you could have potentially been right there with both Rodgers and Pettin and the spelling bee, but I think that's a lot of fun. Rodgers went on to say the relationships being formed and being a little intentional in camp is the best way to really kind of improve that chemistry. We're staying in dorms, guys are hanging out, and this is a fun time right now. There's obviously pressure to perform in practice, especially for the young guys, but I enjoy this team. It's got a good young spirit about it, a hunger, and guys I think genuinely like each other, which isn't always the case with teams. So I stressed, months ago, back when they did the paintballing at the end of OTAs, one thing that I appreciate and I think makes some of these teams, mold and form into Super Bowl contenders as far as teams is that brotherhood, that bond that goes on. Little activities like this that they do throughout training camp, I think is absolutely awesome. It's crucial. And then they also, they actually took all the rookies and they asked them to name off some of their coaches. And Rodgers said that 50% of the guys got the answer wrong. So like being able to joke, being able to, kind of poke at each other, kind of have, same thing that I would do with my own brother is, make jokes and have a lot of fun. That's something that I'm seeing start to mold and start to form throughout that Packers locker room. And that isn't really necessarily football news as much as it is the excitement that I like that these guys get along, that they are going to be working for each other. They're going to go out there. They're going to put it all on the line. And that gives me a lot of hope because it's not always the case. Like Rodgers said, it's not always the case. Sometimes these guys are just out there for themselves to get a paycheck, and this is a plus. So that is all that I got for this week's video. I'm sorry that it might not have been longer. Of course, I don't always know how long these things get until I edit them. But that's all I have for this particular episode. Family night is tonight, so if you are going out there, have yourself a great time. I caught wind that they might not be airing it on television, so I'm going to be pretty disappointed if I get home from work tomorrow night or tonight. God, that was a Freudian slip. If I get home tonight from work and the game's not on, but regardless, I will be tracking it throughout the internet. I'm sure there's somebody that will be streaming it online. I can't promise you that I will stream it online because I'm not even sure what I will be doing at the time of kickoff. But as always, thank you for being here. I've hardly touched my beer. If you like what you have watched, subscribe down below, subscribe to the video. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, that's yours. It's all yours. It's yours for the taking. Comment down below. I love the conversation, some really great feedback, and some just wonderful words of encouragement. It motivates me. I had no intention of doing a video today, and some of the comments that went out there made me decide to put this thing together and get no sleep heading into the workday. So until next time, when we meet again to talk about the Packers, I will see you on the internet. Thanks for watching.